So, welcome, Philippe. I'm very glad you could be with us this evening, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to share. What
Okay,
I've
thank you for
read,
the invitation. Thank you.
very, very glad you answered it. So, what I've read of your work is fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to what you have to say this evening. And I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about yourself before we move into the presentation. I was wondering what drew you to shiatsu in the first place.
Yeah, I have been 8 years, so I had a lot of asthmatic problems, lung problems, and during travel in India, I met someone who was into Yin Shindo, actually, acupressure, and I came to study Yin Shindo, so acupressure, like it was called in Scandinavia. And so, because after India, I moved to Scandinavia. I spent quite some time in Norway, and that's where I learned acupressure. But it came very natural to me, just holding the points. I didn't know very much about meridians or anything like that. I had done quite some meditation before. So for me, it was like an extension of my meditation, holding points and feeling what happens in my own body and what happens in the body of the other person. But for me, it came so natural that somehow I needed a more dynamic way of working. So that's how I came to shiatsu. First, I considered Swedish massage, but for I don't remember the reason, but I got a shiatsu treatment and I started to study shiatsu. So I had already some experience of giving treatments, meeting people. But shiatsu, yeah, it was love at first sight. I liked the dynamics of it, the rotation, stretches, and at the same time, also the poses, the moments of stillness, just being in connection. And yeah, then I went on to study shiatsu, and my teacher invited me to be assistant. And then one moment he said, "Okay, now you start to teach." And actually, I understood why he pushed me to teach. It was at that moment that I had to really go and study, because before that I was like very much yeah, going more intuitive, in following my intuition. But when one is a teacher, one has to know where are the meridians, where are the points. So that was a challenge I got from my teacher. So it helped me to go deeper into the material and to really start to study.
So how long have you been teaching? How many years now?
Yeah, it must be 30 years now that I teach. And some periods I have been teaching very intensively. When I was still living in Europe, I had every weekend, I had students who came, and I was teaching them the first, second, and third year of the shiatsu education. And during the week in my practice, I used also techniques from other modalities, other bodywork modalities that I have studied, like craniosacral or more osteopathic techniques. But during the weekends, then I had to just teach shiatsu. So then I stayed true to shiatsu. And I did that until I came to Japan. So now the last 7 years, I'm teaching more the postgraduate education. So now I bring everything together that I had in my practice. And before we started, we talked about to keep it simple, but to go deep. And that's my aim with what I'm doing. So even though I use osteopathic techniques or craniosacral techniques, I always bring it together, um, and also in the framework of East Asian medicine. Because for me, that helps me to keep it simple, but at the same time to keep it deep because it's connected to yin and yang, five elements. And as we know, as body workers from East Asian bodywork therapies, it's yin and yang can be explained very simple, but the depth and the red, I mean, it's so deep, or medicine, and it's so ancient. So even after 30 years, we can still discover many things.
Yes, yes. In your article that you wrote, that was in the February issue of Pulse, I
Mhm.
remembered that you talked about the learning process that you're going to discuss is like a spiral. You said so there's a point at which at any point you can become a beginner again.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm describing that well,
Yeah.
but you
So I
still
see it,
stagnate.
yeah, at the begin, the beginner mind or the beginner knowledge we have, it's very much for, for me as a shiatsu practitioner, it's very much the hara. It's there that is our base. So when we give it treatment, that's a strength in our medicine that we have. So we work from our hara. So we don't need to go up in the head first. That's in a later phase that we go up in the head. But first we connect from the hara, and from a good working position, good body mechanics that we use. So that's something we always come back to. So we call it the shu, and it's like the base. So we have the shu hari. So in the half phase, then we deepen our knowledge. And so then we open up, we can relax more, we can feel more things. Then it's more like intuitive work. Of course, everything is intertwined. It's not separate. That's why also in the presentation I will give, I have made images where we have a circle, and then a bigger circle, and a very big circle. So we can always go back to our center. So also in our treatment, if we don't know what to do, okay, we breathe and we come back to our center. And then, okay, we open up, maybe information comes, maybe we pick something up from the person who is there, and or we remember some technique. So it's like an interplay. You you come from a center and you open up.
That's beautiful. Would
Mhm.
now be a good time to move into your presentation?
Yeah, maybe it will help me to to. Okay, so I have to open share screen. That will be very. I will see. I will open the PowerPoint here, and it should be the entire screen. Okay. For some reason, I don't see how I can uh, come to the PowerPoint.
So have you hit the share screen button at the bottom of the
Yeah,
screen? And when
but
you bring it up, do you not see your PowerPoint?
no, because I come to The PowerPoint is open, but when I share screen, it is not there.
It's not there. Would you
No.
like Gloria to put it on the screen then?
Yeah, maybe that's better to do like that.
And you can just let her know when you're ready to go to the next slide.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Gloria, for being here.
Yeah, good we have the backup.
Yes, thank you.
Hmm. Okay. So I see many slides, but maybe that's how it should be.
If you click on the, can you click on the one slide so that it fills the screen? Does that work, Gloria? Does it not do that? It's not doing that?
Normally, slideshow play from the beginning should be.
It doesn't look like it gives you the opportunity to enlarge here, does it? Okay.
Okay. So I don't know if everyone sees the slides on the bottom also.
I
Uh,
can, so the likelihood is that oh, there we
ah,
go. Yay.
now we
Here
are
we
there. Okay.
okay.
So this was the title of the article I wrote for your organization. So
Yes.
Shinzui Shuho. So a journey of integration. So integration, so I talked about it. So my idea and my vision is to bring all the modalities of bodywork that I learned to get together in one comprehensive whole. And the name I got from my teacher was Shinzui. So originally, some 20 years ago, I got Shinzui Shiatsu from my teacher. So that's what I have been teaching for many years. So Shinzui Shiatsu. And Shinzui, it means core or center or essence. And like words you get in Japan, it's not that you already are there, but it's something you are aiming towards. It's not that you're already perfectly enlightened and that you're already working from the core. It's something you are aspiring to, something that you're working towards. You have to know in Japan, names are not so fixed as we in the West. Like, for example, the big artists, some of the big artists, they change their name very often here in Japan. Also, writers, they write under different pen names. And at the moment of death, we get also a different name in Japan. So I had my parents-in-law who passed away not so long ago. So then the priest comes and gives them a new name for the afterlife. So Shinzui Shuho, of course, Shiatsu is still in it for me, but that's the name that I use now for what I'm doing. So maybe we can go to the next slide. So there you have the kanjin. We can go to the next slide. So when you look at the first kanjin, Shinzui, it means essence or core. But kanjin in Japanese, they have many meanings. They are like containers of meaning. So it means also bone marrow. It depends on the context you use it. So in the context of bodywork, we we I see it more as essence core. And shuho, is method or skill. And so the two characters next to shuho, it means a method, um, yeah, a way of working. Maybe we can go to the next slides. I thought that, sorry, I didn't do that on the previous slide. But actually, can we go back to the previous slide? Sorry. Okay. Because when we have shuho, the first character there means hand. So bodywork, manual therapy, hand. So it's encompassed in that meaning, actually. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So the Japanese concept, so when we come now to the concept of shuhari that I talked about in the beginning, so for me, that was a subtitle that I chose. So it's a pathway towards an integrative approach of bodywork practice. So that's how I use shuhari and how I have been introduced to it. Of course, shuhari is not only for bodywork, it's also for martial arts or any art. And calligraphy, like for example, my wife is a calligrapher, so she expanded, so she got a black belt in calligraphy. But typically, like in Japan, then you start over again. You start again with a white belt. So it's not that you have a black belt and you arrived. And that's how I understood shuhari at the beginning. I thought that it was more like a linear process. So you are at point A and you want to go to point B, and then you are arrived. So it's actually after many years that I started to understand, okay, it's not a goal that we are aiming towards, it's a process. So maybe we can go to the next slides. This is the tea master who introduced the term shuhari. So we can look at his words in the next slides. So honoring the fundamentals, even as you eventually move beyond the rules and structures once you have embodied them. So that's what he has written. So that's a quote of this tea master. So we honor the fundamentals and sometimes we move beyond them. So we have the rules of our practice, but then we can move beyond them, beyond the structures. So once we have embodied them, and that's a very important part of our work. I talked about the hara. The hara is a place that we embody our art. So we can go to the next slide. So shu, we learn the fundamentals. So we mimic our teacher. And typically in Japan, I have been lucky to study with some good teachers here and also together with other Japanese students. So the first thing that I noticed when I came to Japan is that there are no questions. So the people who are in the group, they just mimic. The teacher presses somewhere, they do the same thing. The teacher has a certain position, they try to mimic, they try to copy the teacher. So without questions. So also, and that was a surprise for me because I had learned shiatsu in the West. So we wanted to know exactly where are the meridians, where are the points. But when I started to learn in Japan, the students didn't ask am I now on the right meridian or not? Or even the teacher didn't correct. So it was just, okay, the teacher has somewhere there that he is pressing, so I will press somewhere there. So it's a different way of learning. It's a way of learning through the body. And that was very new for me. And as a Westerner, I wanted to understand. But in the Japanese culture, it's more common from small that you also learn through your body. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So we have learned the fundamentals. Then at a certain point, the teacher will start to give you information and you will expand your knowledge. And maybe at that time, you go deeper into the theory. And there again, it's like memorizing the theory. Not that you have to understand everything, but you memorize it. You, okay, are the five elements, yin and yang. You rehearse it. It's not that you understand it completely, but it's only in a later phase, in this half phase. So we had this expansion phase. It's at a later phase that the teacher will really give you more information. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And then we come to the last phase, who is at the same time the beginning. And that's why they are all into each other. So it's like you have the center, you expand, but it's not because you have expanded that you cannot go back to the center. Sometimes I have heard people explain Shuhari as a circular movement, but I see it more as a concentric movement. Because even if you have a lot of experience, it's good to always come back to the beginner's mind. Okay, so in this phase, everything became natural. And doesn't mean that we don't nurture the fundamentals. And for me, teaching was very much nurturing the fundamentals. Because, like I said, every weekend I had to explain to beginners or to people in the second year, third year, again and over again, the theory and show them the techniques also. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So this is how we can put it together. So in Japan, they call the first phase mostly protect. You learn the fundamentals, so you protect the fundamentals. So you don't alter it, you protect it. So the second phase, they call it breaking or digressing. So you can see it as expanding your knowledge. And the third phase is the detachment. So all becomes natural at that moment. It's a tricky thing when we put it like 3 points, because then again we think, okay, I'm in one and I have to come to two, and then maybe someday I will come to three. So it's more like a natural development, like a flower who flowers, or like a seed and then a tree who grows and naturally expands. It's something who cannot be forced. So we can go to the next slide. So the fundamentals for me it's very much yin and yang. So it's very simple. It's night and day. And that's a strong, the strength and the genius actually of East Asian medicine to have such a simple concept that you can expand and understand the whole reality and also understand our medicine through yin and yang. And so we have black and white, night and day. But with that, we can have the five elements, the eight forces of nature, and the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. So we can go to the next slide. So when we think about yin and yang, we have earth and heaven, and we have the human being in between. So that's like a way to understand yin and yang that we have in our medicine. So heaven, earth, and human. So we can go to the next slide. Or the union of heaven, earth, and human. And as we have said, at the bottom we have the hara. So we can go to the next slide. It's very much connected to the earth. It's our fundament and it's the base of our work. So we can go to the next slide. So as we know now from Western medicine and the development of anatomy, we understand also more the connection with the brain and also the connection from the hara upwards. So we can go to the next slide. So in our work, we work, so I've done quite some work on Ampuku. So I've written a book about translation of the Ampuku Zukai and the Amatebiki. So actually the two books who describe the 30 Ampuku techniques who were used in the Edo periods. So there we work also on the hara. And we want to open up the hara and strengthen the hara. So those techniques are seen as the core techniques in Amma Shiatsu Japanese bodywork. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's a book that I've written that shows all the Ampuku techniques. So we can go to the next slide. So then we come to the heart. So we have the base who is in the hara. Then we come up to the heart. So it's also connected to the shuhari. So, and we have also the yin and yang. So it's all interconnected. So what I explain now, it's not something that is, okay, we have yin and yang on one place, shuhari on another place. It's all interconnected. So when we come to the heart, it's actually also when we come to the half phase. And so when we open up, we transform, we communicate, and bodywork as an art of communication, a way of possibility to listen with our heart, to listen with our whole being. And it's also connected to virtue or character, or we could say virtue power. And that's the. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And then, of course, we need the brain also. So it's not that we only need the hara, we need the hara, we need the heart, and we need the brain and the wisdom, all the classics we have from our medicine. We need to integrate our knowledge and transmutation of Shen, of spirits. Then we can connect in our art with the emptiness. For me, that's the beginning and the end of all body work. It's starting from emptiness. We meet someone, we don't know anything about the person, we say hello, we welcome them, we listen to them, and then with an open mind, everything is welcome. We touch them and we do our work. Then it becomes a communication, it becomes an exchange. It's not a one-way communication, it's an exchange with the people who come and see us. So that I see as the third phase of our body work. And so we have learned the fundamentals, we know our body mechanics, we work from the hara, and then we open up and we can meet people from a state of emptiness. So we can look at the next slides. So then we bring it all together, the foundation, transformation, and wisdom. So it becomes one unity. And to connect that, it's also important to connect to those three parts of ourselves. It's very important to do Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation. So they are like the water, the nourishment of our art. So we can look at the next slide. So if we translate it for the people more into East Asian medicine, so we have the Jing and the essence, the Qi or the energy, and then the Shen or the spirit. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So in the article I wrote about the Trinity of the fundamentals. So for me, now we have looked at the Trinity, we have looked at Shuhari, we have looked at the three parts of our being. And for me, it also relates to the techniques we use. So it serves as a guiding framework for the journey through Shuhari. So this Trinity comprises Hara, Yin Yang, and communication. So maybe I didn't speak much about that, but so we have the Hara that we train, and Yin and Yang for me that stands for the whole medicine we have, and the five elements, how they relate to each other, but also the earthly branches, the heavenly stems, the eight forces of nature. So, and once we have installed that, then we can communicate from that place. So that's how I call it the Trinity of the fundamentals. So we can go to the next slide. So the Hara is a foundation. We talked about that. So it's mastering the Hara is a place we always can come back. It's our physical grounding. And without that, we don't have a base for our intuition. Because when we have the Hara, we have the possibility to come into stillness, to have a foundation like we have seen. And once we have that, we open up. So we can come to the next slides. Hello. Maybe we can come to the next slide. Yeah. because that's like a fundament of another fundament for a bodywork and the communication, really an art of touch. Touch as a craft, it's craft and art. So when we have a good foundation, then we open up, we embody it, then really the art can start to bloom. So this phase emphasizes the listening with one's whole being. So engaging in a silent dialogue that addresses both the practitioner and the receiver. So the receiver's entire being. So our entire being, but also the receiver's entire being. So we can come to the next slide. So to give an example about how we can bring everything together, I wanted to start with the Amatebiki. So Amatebiki is one of the books who describes the Ampuku techniques. And we can look at one of the Ampuku techniques in the next slides. So it's actually Korinote is the first technique described in the Amatebiki. And there we can go towards the aorta. So we feel the aorta and we have a diagnosis from the aorta, but we treat it. We have a light pressure and we connect with the pulse to calm the person, it is said. So we can come to the next slide. So when we have seen the technique from the Amatebiki, then it's more easy to understand the techniques from the first pioneers of shiatsu. So one of the pioneers was Tamai Tempiki. So when we look at the next slide, there we see him working on the aorta. So sometimes it's said that he just invented shiatsu, but it's important to see where it comes from. At least for me, it's important to understand the thread in history. Yeah, so for me, to understand the fundamentals of our medicine is also to understand the history of the medicine. So when we come to the next slide, here in this technique, he describes how he applies pressure towards the aorta. And that he applies pressure until he feels the first pulse. And there he stays for 1 minute. Then he disengages. Then he comes back. And he says to do the technique maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, and with some patients up to 1 hour. Can you imagine 1 hour with one technique they did? So it's important to understand that the pioneers of our medicine, they had time, and sometimes they stayed a long time with one technique if it really was necessary, to stay with one technique, to listen, to feel the pulse. So this is one example how we can learn from the fundamentals from our medicine. Then we can bring it together with new discoveries of the aorta and also visceral techniques where we work with the aorta, who are maybe a little bit different and who give us more anatomical backgrounds. Okay, we can go and look at the next slides. This importance of the aorta, but this is only one example, and there are other examples that we could give. Actually, many more other examples we could give. This is Ishizaka, and so um, he had got from Dutch physician, a Siebold, who came in to Japan at the end of the 18th century. So he got a book on anatomy, and when he saw the anatomy from Western perspective, he understood Chongmai. He also understood the aorta, and because he understood the aorta, he understood the Chongmai. So all those threads, they are there in our medicine. So if we take the time to go back to the fundamentals, if we go back and look at the classics and then expand it towards modern knowledge, we can bring it all together. For me, in my practice, when I learned about the aorta and the Chongmai, and the Chongmai connected to the Renmai and the Dumai, it opened up a whole other dimension in my body work. So we can go and look at the next slide. So this is the last slide. So true craftsmanship ultimately is about remaining faithful to the fundamental principles of our art while adapting to changing conditions, transmuting all our technical skills into a genuine, intuitive healing art. So that was the last sentence of my article. So I'm happy if there are any more questions about what I have talked about.
Thank you, Philippe. I
Yeah,
I have a couple of questions, and
yeah. Tell me.
if the listeners have questions, I believe you said you'd like them to put them in the chat. Is that correct?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, but maybe we don't have so many people attending at the live session, so it doesn't matter. It's up to
And
you.
if people watch this afterwards, because this will often happen, we'll put it on the YouTube channel and then we'll post it in Pulse. Is there a way they can contact you if they have
Yeah,
questions following up to
they,
this?
they can have my email address, or they can go to my website. And but I think the email address is the most easy way to connect with me.
And that would become okay. So I'll
Mm.
just include that when I post it in YouTube. I'll put your
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
so everybody watching this afterwards, go look for Philippe's email address if you'd like to ask him further questions. And thank you for
Mm.
being willing to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Actually, before we go there, if I may,
Yes.
so I wanted to share also the last days have been quite a, a challenging time. I had some infection, so but I wanted to do the presentation anyway. But I feel that I'm not 100%. But anyway, I wanted to do it because the people who come to us are also not always 100%. And as a practitioner, it's also okay to not always be 100%. Or as a teacher, I have experienced that myself. Sometimes when I have been teaching, okay, um, life has this ups and downs, and that can happen for everyone. So I just wanted to share that it's um,
I
yeah, part
agree.
of the game of being a body worker.
It's part of showing up to life, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
I once had a Tai Chi student come up to me after class and she said, "I'm so happy you make mistakes. It makes me feel like I can make mistakes too." It's good to be
Yeah.
human. Well, I'm not saying
Yeah.
you made mistakes, but I mean just bringing your humanity to the
Yeah,
table.
of course. People come to us, and like I told before we started, someone who said to me, "You're my last hope." So, who had someone who was very sick and who had tried all kind of things. But so yes, to be human as a practitioner. Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, you had some question,
I
Karen.
did. I found myself, and this is in addition to the other questions I had. I found myself, as you were speaking, thinking of contraction and expansion. Because I know you mentioned spiral in your article, you know, how you spiral and come back to the source. And there was another word that you used that I can't remember. But it's also, isn't it? Because our work is all about expansion and contraction, the yang and the yin.
Yeah.
It almost seems like you expand from shu through ha to re, and then you can contract back and then expand
Mm,
again, like breathing. Would
mm.
that be a reasonable understanding of what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a breath of life. And that's the beauty of the osteopathic tradition, because at the same time, like we had the shiatsu practitioners, the shiatsu pioneers that we had also the pioneers of craniosacral. They also, Sutherland, he wrote his book in the 30s. So it's and he talks about the expansion and the contraction, the breath of life.
Yes.
It's so beautiful to understand it as yin and yang. That's why for me I always have to translate. So I like to study with osteopathic teachers, but I have to translate it into yin and yang, that expansion and contraction, because then we understand also, yeah, day and night, health and illness. It's ever changing dance of life.
You've incorporated a lot of visceral work into the ampuku that
Mm,
you do. And when we were talking before, you were talking about how the expure and the inspire in the visceral work, because all the organs have their little expansion and contractions as well, was something that you drew a parallel to yin and yang with.
mm. Yeah, so I see it as so yang. I see as an expansion, and so that's how I understand it. I know that the macrobiotic way of looking at it can be different, but in the classical, traditional way of seeing it, and how I have learned it from my qigong teachers. So when you are in the yang phase or in tai chi, so where you go outwards, it's the yang, and the yin is inwards. That's also something we see in the movement of the organs. And so you have a movement who is more outward and a movement who is more inward. So when we look through the lens of East Asian medicine, we can see the visceral manipulation, the visceral tides, like I call it, as a yin and a yang phase. Then it's more easy to fit it in my meridian work, working with eight extraordinary vessels, and so on.
Thank you. So, how does a student know that they have progressed from shu to ha or to
Mm.
re? How might they know? Or do they just need the teacher to tell them, or do they have an internal knowing that they could also refer to?
I think life shows us. First of all, the patients who come will sometimes come with more severe conditions that we can work with. I think it's an inner knowledge that you feel in yourself that you can do something for the person, because my main aim is to be a good practitioner. Um, Second phase, a good teacher, but the main goal I have is to be helpful for the people who come and see me. So I think the patients tell us, okay, and the results will show themselves
Mm.
if we can help someone or not. And doesn't mean because we are in the half in the rephase that we can help everyone also. Uh, People have also their own responsibility. Like I said, the person who came to me and said, "Okay, you are my last hope." Uh, then we started to look what she could do for helping herself. Someone who never stops working, work alcoholic, and never takes time for herself. Then she comes to me and says, "Okay, you are my last hope."
Oh, yeah.
So I made her understand that she was her last hope. But, of course, I can help, but I cannot help only so much as bodywork can help.
So you empowered her. You gave her power back.
Yeah, that's a main part of our job, to empower people and to show them that they can take care of their own health. That I see as a very important part of our work.
I agree.
Mm.
So we kind of already talked about one of my questions about how you now incorporate osteopathic body work into your shiatsu. What are some principles of shiatsu that one might widely apply to other practices?
Yeah, I I think it would be so much easier if for me the base is the eight extraordinary vessels, and they are connected to my qigong practice of working with the trigrams. So that's again yin and yang, and it makes it so much easier. I talked about the aorta and the chongmai. So if we can open up the chongmai, for me, my work has mainly become working with the great chongmai. So the chongmai, who is also the renmai and the dumai,
Mm.
and then the daimai. So for me, the belt channel and the channel in the middle of the body, to open up that and then to go into the visceral work makes it so much easier. And then the cranial work to connect everything, and working with the fascia. So I cannot separate it anymore somehow. They help each other. Maybe that's a way to see it. It doesn't become shiatsu and visceral work and cranial work. It's um, it's one unit. It doesn't mean that in every technique, in every treatment, one has to use all the techniques. It's to use the appropriate technique. And that can be working more with the fascia, working more with stretches or whatever.
Thank you. You also have, I know you are in Japan, but you also teach online, do you not? You have some online classes?
Yeah, I have a course. It's called The Art of Touch. So maybe we can put a link there. So there I go through the trigrams. Actually, it's built up around the trigrams. For me, that has become my work because I've studied with some. teachers in the I Ching and the Book of Change. So the Book of Change has become the base of my work. That's how I understand yin and yang. And that I know, for example, Masunaga sensei was also very much into the I Ching. It was also the book who was most published in the Edo period. So it's something we cannot overlook.
Mhm.
So for me, it's connected also to the Neigong we do and the Qigong. And out of that, the bodywork flows.
We have a question in the chat. Um,
Yeah,
Deb would like to know, Deb Layton asks, she says that she sees that you have a book on Empuku, which we were talking about earlier.
yeah.
She would like to know if you teach that here in the United States or online.
For the moment online. So the art of touch, it's thank you for the question, because the art of touch is actually an evolution of the art of Ampuku that I had first. So first I had an online course who was the art of Ampuku, but now I have expanded it to the art of touch. So the at the core, the Ampuku is still there, but now it is expanded to the art of touch. So I put more techniques in it, but all the 30 Ampuku techniques are in the online course also.
Thank you. Have you taught in the United States before?
No, never. But I have a group who will come in 2028 from the Chicago Shiatsu
Oh,
School.
so Steve Drogne's reached out.
Yeah, Steve
Awesome.
is organizing in 2028 a group who comes here.
Oh,
And
good.
it's a perfect timing because I have a colleague here in Fukuoka, someone I know very well, and he has bought an old ryokan who is more than 200 years old, and at this moment he's renovating it. It's a beautiful place, so we are planning to have it in that place. You have the warm thermal baths there, both inside and outside, in the middle of nature. So it will be a wonderful place to come to.
That sounds beautiful.
Mm,
All right. Now I have to start saving my money.
yeah, 2028. So
2028. Yeah.
there's still some time.
Nice. So thank you so much for coming and
Mm,
sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. I really appreciate you taking the time. Um, and we have come to the end of our time together.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will put this on YouTube, and you may be getting more questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Philip.